Good morning, everyone. So if you can get Roxbury and Charlie out here, usually you've done something either really bad or really good, and we think that this is something that's really good, and we're very excited to kind of make this announcement. Mayor Williams is going to start with a few remarks. We have City Treasurer Dan Miller, City Deputy Controller Bill Leinenberger, and Brian McCutcheon is here as well. If you guys want to, you can come over here. Brian McCutcheon from our Finance Department representing Marita Kelly, who is our City Finance Director. So without further ado, I will welcome, and President Bowers is here as well. Hello. So without further ado, I will turn it over to Mayor Williams.
Thank you, Mr. Maisel, and forgive me, I have a cold. He got me on my bed this morning, but this is a historic day today. Good morning. Late Wednesday, we received word from AMBAC Assurance Financial Group that they received a wire transfer payment for $8,335,968.49. Our remaining balance is $0. For the first time in more than 25 years, the City of Harrisburg is debt-free. Debt-free in 2023. What a wonderful accomplishment. This is a historic moment in our city. I have been waiting for this day since I started council 17 years ago. When I ran for mayor, I made a promise to the people of Harrisburg that we would once and for all eliminate this debt. For a quarter century, we were saddled and burdened with these payments. Years of irresponsible spending and bad financial planning. The people you see up here today, and some who wish they could be here but had prior commitments, are the heroes in this story. They had the courage to do what's right for the people of Harrisburg. Instead of kicking the can down the road, we had the opportunity to pay off this debt. And we did just that. $20 million in debt payments over 3 months. With us today are the people who made that happen. Treasurer Dan Miller, Deputy Controller Bill Leinenberger, who is here on behalf of Controller Charlie DeBruner, and Accounting Manager Brian McCutcheon, who is here representing Finance Director Marita Kelly, and Council President Danielle Bowers. I also wish to thank my Chief of Staff, Business Administrator Dan Hartman, whose leadership and persistence was integral in getting these payments completed. And City Solicitor Neil Grover, who has been with me from the start of this. 17 years ago, we sat at the table. We were here 7 days out of the week. We were here 8 hours a day. And I said, Neil, are we ever going to be able to accomplish this? So here is today that accomplishment. We sat together years ago in City Council chambers, figuring our path to eliminate this debt. We finally did it. Harrisburg's best days are ahead. You, the people of Harrisburg, entrusted in me to close the book on the 25-year chapter today. We open a new one with promises fulfilled and hope on the horizon. Thank you all, and at this point, I'd like to welcome Treasurer Dan Miller to make a few remarks.
Thank you, Mayor Williams. I do want to say it's interesting to say there's heroes here, and since they're here, I do want to acknowledge Brian McCutcheon, Bill Leinenberger. I don't know where Dan Hartman is, but it is important to recognize that those employees of the city who are behind the scenes that are smart, that are intelligent, and want to do the right thing. We do have those employees here in the city. Often decisions don't get made, maybe in what I think is the best way, but these are people that are trying to get that done. And that brings us back to today's debt with AMBAC. I mean, for me, this has been a particularly annoying and costly debt because we've had the ability to pay this off for many years. And during that time, we've had historically low interest rates. So we've had that money banked and it's earning almost zero interest. While at the same time, AMBAC's been charging us up to 6.75% interest. So they've been making a killing on Harrisburg. Unfortunately, we couldn't get the prior administration to really pay this off. So I do want to credit Mayor Williams for taking this debt seriously. Let's get it paid off. We could have saved Harrisburg millions. We're going to save millions, but it's better late than never, and I'm so glad that we've taken it seriously and we've done these items to really take a step forward for the citizens of Harrisburg. Thank you. Bill, do you want to explain something?
Well, we have a picture here of the debt. I'd just like to go over it with you.
Can you see?
It'll be there in a minute. There we go.
Okay, you can see this all started in 2012 and 2013. The city missed its general obligation bond payments for Series D and F in 1997 in both years to the tune of $8.65 million each year. So that aggregates to about $18.7 million here. At the end of 13, I believe there was about $400,000 of AMBAC legal costs added to that. And it dips down here, and at the end of 13, you see when the receiver monetized the parking authority, took $6 million of that and applied it to the AMBAC liability, so it went down a little bit. But essentially from here all the way through here, the end of 2022, this liability was accruing interest at 6.75%. So you can see that it gets all the way up to over $26 million here. Here it dips. This is for the prior administration, hired a consultant, and they negotiated with AMBAC, got some concessions, and this is where, obviously, you can see it goes down to zero today.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Lineberger. Now we'll hear a couple remarks from our president, Danielle Bowers.
Thank you, Mayor Williams. Good morning, everyone. I'd just like to bring you greetings on behalf of Harrisburg City Council, but I just want to say thank you. I'd like to thank our predecessors. Many of the council members were not in service when this debt began in 2013. However, I'm glad that we were in a position to finish the task. So I'd like to thank former council president, now Mayor Williams, for her hard work and dedication to this effort, along with the remainder of her administration and other staff that are responsible. I would also like to thank Vice President Green, who serves as our Budget and Finance Committee Chair, for her leadership in this effort, as well as former Councilman Ben Allett, who served as the former Budget and Finance Committee Chair. So we'd like to thank him for sort of ushering us through, making sure that we were very clear on every step of the way through this chart. He led us very well, so I'd like to thank him for his previous leadership on this effort. But thank you, and I like the slogan, debt-free in 2023. That has a nice ring to it, Mayor Williams. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you. Now I'll turn it over to Mr. Miller, Mr. McCutcheon, or Mr. Lineberger for questions. But before I go, I want to say to all of you, you know how Hallmark is a great moment and a great movie channel? This is a Hallmark moment. No questions?
Yes.
Who would you like to address it to?
Whoever feels they can weigh in
Okay,
on this.
come on over here, Bill. I'll get here in case.
I guess one question I was wondering about was, I was just curious, so we're at this moment in March of 2023. How does that timeline compare to what was envisioned by the Harrisburg Strong Plan? I mean, in other words, is Harrisburg getting out from under this debt faster or slower, or about when the Harrisburg Strong Plan envisioned it to happen? If you know.
Do you want to answer? Brian?
Yeah, sure.
I think.
Okay. Yes, good morning, everyone. Thank you, Mayor Williams, too, for the lead in today. On that particular item, the original plan was developed to be quite an extended period through the end of the current decade into 2032. The timing of the more significant payments to AMBAC was based on once the GO debt, the bonds and the notes from 1997, being fully paid off, which did occur back in September of last year. Up until that point, the city was making very nominal payments to AMBAC that really weren't having an impact on the forbearance liability. So the plan was for those payments to really kick in this year, timing-wise. So in essence, the city does not have to, has avoided future payments going through the end of this decade, and I think even into 2032, I believe, and also avoiding the heavy burden of the interest expense that Dan and Bill had previously went through.
So it's pretty significantly accelerated then?
Yes, it's significant savings.
One of you had mentioned that there were some negotiations that went on with AMBAC here in the last year or two. What were those like? What you mentioned concessions as well? What were those?
It's, again, as we were coming into 2021, prior to this administration, again, this always impacts the budget plan for the year. And again, we're gathering around, we were taking a lot of input and encouragement to try to do something more significant about this debt. So actually, there was an amended settlement agreement that took effect in 2021 and allowed for the city to make a prepayment amount. But it was to be in conjunction with making the HRA Redevelopment Authority stadium bonds also to go away. So they were defeased. That was part of the settlement agreement. So what that did, that enabled the city to do a $4 million prepayment, and AMBAC afforded a credit of approximately $3.3 million. So that was the starting point. So by the end of 2021, a significant pay down of the liability was roughly $7.3 million. But there was still quite a balance. There was still quite an amount of interest expense being generated. Part of that agreement also allowed for the interest expense to drop the interest rate to 5% for a period of 3 years. And then it would go back up again to 6.75. So that brought us into 2022 with Mayor Williams' budget process, including strategy with our Chief of Staff, Business Administrator Dan Hartman, and new Finance Director Marita Kelly, to plan how to handle that into 2022. And later in the year, we developed a request through that process, which we also wanted to have City Council review it, be comfortable with it, and they thankfully approved the related budget adjustment. Long story short, we did another $12 million payment amount in December of last year. That followed the successful full payoff of the GO debt, the D bonds and the F notes in September of last year. So that set us up for the remaining balance, which just happened, as the mayor mentioned yesterday, approximately $8.3 million. And again, I thank our team and also City Council's review and approval of the needed budget adjustment to make that happen. And also I appreciate the City Solicitor's Office for developing the related legislation. There's a lot of detail over the years. This goes back 10 years, 11 years. And there were different versions of the settlement agreement, which was amended to accommodate the recent significant events. And that's a very complicated process. So sorry for the long answer on that.
And so when you say you're debt-free, just to be clear for our readers and listeners, are we talking about debt-free from the debt that was piled on as a result of the incinerator project and the other Reed-era projects, but is there still some other city debt for water and sewer projects, or, I mean, the city still has some other debt service payments, I would imagine, right?
Okay.
We're not 100% debt-free.
I mean, that is true in the sense that the significant relief, as I mentioned, the GO debt, the AMBAC debt are now fully liquidated. This year, we're in the process of, as scheduled, there is a quarterly capital lease payment that relates to the city's streetlight LED upgrade project, which happened back in 2015. And we only have 2 more quarterly payments to make on that. There is really the last significant piece, and it comes back to the city's guaranteeing debt that was issued by the Redevelopment Authority. It's the Series A of 1998 guaranteed revenue bonds, which relate to the Commonwealth or the Verizon Tower bonds that are associated with that property. The city continues to make a minimum payment on that debt to help fund. The city doesn't have to fully pay the debt service on those bonds, which approximates 2.1 million annually, but we do have a minimum piece, which is roughly 50% of that debt service.
Mayor Williams, with this money that won't be funneling anymore into this debt, do you have any plans for what you want to do going forward?
What?
Or do you have anything that you specifically would like to do?
Well, we're trying to contemplate what we want to do with that. We know we need to do the streets, we need to repave the streets, we need to take other structures down in the city of Harrisburg. There's a lot we want to do with that, but we haven't had time to even grasp the moment of being sort of debt-free. So we will be looking into those areas. Everything will be focused on making sure city services are up to par.
And how does it feel that this happened during your administration?
Oh, I love it. I was here. I was here when we were sitting at the table, $638 million in debt. So today to sit here and stand here and say we're debt-free, not all the way, but we're there. So it's an amazing feeling.
When you got that notification from AMBAC last night, what did you guys? Did you guys sit around and pop a bottle of champagne or anything? How did you celebrate?
I don't drink here.
Did you do anything to celebrate?
Well, I was dancing a little bit at home. But no, we were all elated when we heard that news.
How about you, Dan? Anything special to mark the occasion?
I'm a dancer too, so Juan and I are dancing at home together.
Okay. I know the city council passed a resolution regarding this advance payment earlier this month, and that resolution said that you all believe that there are enough financial reserves for the city to meet its needs this year. Can someone put a number on that? What is the city's cash balance right now after?
He can give you that information.
As of the end of February, we were just over 25 million in operating general fund cash position. So currently, of course, with this 8.3 million, it takes us down to approximately 17 million. That's not accounting for the activity that we have in March, and we're still in that phase of receiving discount real estate tax payments, which are very significant at this time of the year.
I just want to be crystal clear. The 2 large debt service payments that happened in the last few years came from reserves?
Yes, from the general fund balance.
So that was money already in the bank?
Yes.
Used now towards this? Yeah.
Correct. Yeah.
And there were no prepayment penalties with AMBAC for those 2 payments?
No, there were not, and that's right from the amended settlement agreement.
And then is the county an insurer of these notes before they were paid off as well? Or? The county does insure some of the.
No.
Yeah, I don't believe that's the case on these, not on the forbearance liability. As I mentioned, the bonds and notes have been fully paid off.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, one more question, because you'll keep us here all day.
Two more if I
No,
can.
one more question. One more question.
Well,
I came out of my sick bed to do this, so one more question.
okay, well then I think,
Then you can talk to, I'll have everyone stand here
Yeah.
afterwards, and you can talk to them, okay?
yeah, well,
Just a minute, let me put this back on for someone. Okay, go ahead.
So I think I would just like to hear you comment. I know this was asked a minute ago, but in a different way, but the city, you know, has been through a lot because of this incinerator crisis. I mean, you think about the loss of the parking assets and the higher taxes through the special taxing authority and everything. So what for the average person here in Harrisburg, what's the best thing about this? I mean, I know that, you know, the taxes aren't going to go away immediately, and I know that, you know, the parking rates are what they are, but what's the light at the end of the tunnel for the Harrisburg resident?
The light at the end of the tunnel is that we are not going to receive any parking money in the next 2 years. So this would help solidify some of the payments that we have to make. Also, the fact of the matter is that there's a lot of vehicles that we need in public works. We need trash and we need recycling trucks. So this will give us an opportunity to get those needed vehicles. And all those houses that people are talking about that are just sitting there, that's dormant and they're ready to fall down, we'll be able to take maybe 5 or 10 of those down. When you have money, you can spend it now.
Yeah, and
We haven't spent money in the last 10 years.
and you spoke about the streets. I mean, so there will come a day when the city will issue a new bond issue, right? To do some
Maybe,
big ticket items.
maybe, maybe.
Well, I was going to ask you, do you envision
We're in
that?
conversation, maybe, maybe. We may and we may not. We may not have to.
Okay. I mean, I was wondering if you think you might do that even like this year in 2020.
Well, we will repave some of the streets, but not all of them that we would like to repave at this point.
Okay, but no major plans to ask for a bond issue for?
Not at this point.
Okay.
We don't want to go back into debt. We just paid off the debt. Come on, Charlie.
Well, only in the sense that, you know, you can do debt.
We're not going to be a
positive
spender
things.
like the other administrations. We're going to make sure that we are financially stable before we make a project. We would decide on a project. Of course, I'm sure President Bowers would like to see that happen as well, because we have to go down to council and ask for a reallocation. Okay? Thank you all for coming today. We appreciate your attendance here. Have a good day.